All right, I think some people are still joining, but we're gonna get started as we have limited time together today, and we want to maximize all of it for Dawn to be sharing her great learning. So hello and welcome everyone to the First Peoples Cultural Council online learning series. My name is Aliana Parker, and I am the Language Program Director at the First Peoples Cultural Council, and I will be your host today for this webinar. Today's webinar, išaaʔatḥ, we are lifting each other up, about the taaʔisumqa Adult Language Intensive Program, is presented by taaʔisumqa, Dawn Foxcroft, and we're very excited to have her here sharing with us today. Before we begin, I want to share briefly about the First Peoples Cultural Council, as I know it may be new for some of you. FPCC, as we call it, is a British Columbia provincial organization with the mandate to support language, arts, and cultural heritage revitalization for Indigenous communities across what is now known as British Columbia. FPCC is grateful to have our office in the beautiful, traditional, unceded territory of the aaʔaʔath people in the village of nuučaan, also called Brentwood Bay. Today, I am also calling in from aaʔaʔath territory, where I live, work, and play as a settler to this area. We also have an additional satellite office at Kamloops in the traditional territory of the aaʔaʔath people. I want to take a moment to thank and acknowledge Amber Blenkiron, who has coordinated this event and is on the call today as our moderator. She'll be posting some information in the chat for you and is available to support if you need any tech support during this webinar. I see that we have several people joining us today, a few people, and numbers are still growing. So I invite you to share in the chat where you are joining us today, from where you're joining us. So you're welcome to share the traditional territory where you live and work, or wherever in the world you are calling in from. You can just pop that in the chat. Great. So now I am very honored to introduce our presenter today. I am so thrilled that Dawn agreed to share at this online learning series. First Peoples Cultural Council has been supporting the taaʔisumqa language program for a few years now, and taaʔisumqa here is leading that work. She is from išaaʔatḥ, one of the nuučaan nations along the west coast of Vancouver Island. As the language manager for her nation, taaʔisumqa, or Dawn, helps in the development and implementation of an adult intensive program in nuučaan, specifically the Barkley dialect, using the Where Are Your Keys approach to create more speakers of the language. And so without further ado, I will pass it over to you.
Cluieti maqsti anes nachu al siwa umatzuk aaʔaʔath kwa aklin hil aalad aaʔathpa yakmahti taaʔisumqa uklamah mamalniqit amti Dawn Foxcroft his daqshiklah tsumaas Port Alberni ukwa miaqsaka Deb Foxcroft išaaʔatḥ nuuq Mike Foxcroft mamalniat ohuquitah miaqsatspa nananiqsu Jim aaʔaʔath Jan Gallic hilha mamuk aalad aaʔathpa yakmahti language manager. Good afternoon, or depending on where you are, but afternoon here to everybody. Thank you for joining me. I'm feeling really good today to see everybody here. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing at the Language House with the išaaʔaʔ language program. My nuučaan name is taaʔisumqa. My English name is Dawn. My mom is Deb Foxcroft, and my dad is Mike Foxcroft. I'm išaaʔaʔ on my mom's side, and my grandparents were the late Jim and Jan Gallic, and I am the language manager for our išaaʔaʔ program. I'm really looking forward to sharing some of what we do at the išaaʔaʔ Language House. Oh, I was supposed to show this. So this is my family, my grandfather, the late Jim Gallic, standing on the beach there. So I'm really looking forward to sharing a little bit about our main activities for our language program with a focus on the adult intensive program. And I'm also looking forward to learning from others that are presenting in these webinars and from you here today. So thank you again for coming. I really want to acknowledge the past, present, and future ancestors, those that paved the way through unspeakable challenges to hold on to our languages so that we could be here today to learn and speak. To those language warriors today that are living this life to strengthen our languages, and to the future who will continue this journey for us, and who I hope, because of our efforts, because of the efforts of our ancestors, it will be easier for them to carry it forward. We began our language program in išaaʔatḥ as it is today in 2019. Prior to this, though, there was lots of important language work that happened in our communities. It was all pretty project-based, but lots of resources were created. Our first voices was first developed then, like over a decade ago, maybe a decade and a half ago. And so we came into this work with lots of language resources and a really solid foundation. And I would just really want to acknowledge those that had worked on that, because it made it really easy for us to step in and pick it up and keep going with it. Also, the language teachers at haahuupayak, I just want to acknowledge them. I went there when I was a kid, and the late Kathy Robinson and Karen Lane Little were my teachers. And today we have Trevor Little and Lena Ross and all the other teachers that were there. It's been really important in our community and nuučaan communities for people like me who got a really strong foundation there for language. And those people, some come into our program and have a really strong language foundation, or be able to pick language up and carry it on, and are remembering because of that. So just acknowledging that. And then today, many of our students in our adult program have children at haahuupayak, and they're able to go home and share language together and teach each other. And I think that's really powerful and important. So again, we started our program in 2019, the program we have today, so a more comprehensive language program, and with lots of support from our community and our nation. We started as a small but mighty team. As you can see here, we have Grant Watts, who is our data technician lead, Lindsay Haggard, who is our language coordinator, and myself, who's the language manager. We also have on our core team is Josh Goodwill. He started as adult learner in our program, in our intensive program, and now is a part of our team doing lots of things, supporting the program, working on First Voices, and doing communications, and you'll see him in this presentation. Yeah, and I just I want to acknowledge our team, because our past and present team, because none of this could happen without them. I'm here presenting, but I'm definitely not the one doing all the work. It's because of our incredible team that we're able to be here and do the things that we're doing. The team right now is spending their precious time recording with our fluent speaker, Benson Nuucamis, and so that's why I'm here on my own today. So one of the main activities that we did when we first started was the strategic plan, and that was really informed by a lot of community input, our community comprehensive plan, the išaaʔatḥ strategic plan, and then our own engagement with community. And that's really helps us guide the work from community for what we're doing today. One of the main activities is documentation and recording for our First Voices project, developing resources for and our intensive program. So we've had a great honor to work with a number of fluent speakers along the way, the late Willard Gallick, the late Angie Jo, Helen Dick, and Benson Nuucamis. And they really have helped us in documentation recording, and also helping us with curriculum development and lessons. But right here, just acknowledging our First Voices work and the team. It's like really important. We want language to be accessible to learners and teachers of our language, and this is one of the spaces we're able to do that. And quickly, some of the other projects that we have worked on, some of the resources that we've done is a place names map that goes along with a seasonal round video. We have little books, so we have Dad and Me and Mom and Me, and these show pictures of our community members and families, and we had a photographer from our community take the photographs, and we did a stop sign project, and these have been placed throughout our išaaʔatḥ community, And we also gifted some to the city, and these signs can be found near one of our main winter villages, ałin, which is also known as the Harbor Key here in Port Alberni. But I just wanted to just touch on a couple of the projects that we've done. But the main thing that I am here to talk about is our adult intensive program. And we're really proud of what we're doing and seeing our learners become conversational speakers. So our adult intensive program started in 2020, and it launched in October. And it's a part-time program. So it is, the main part of the program runs Tuesdays to Thursdays. Tuesdays, we meet from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and we share lunch that day together. Wednesdays and Thursdays, we meet 9 to 12. And then our students have 2 hours that they're required to do outside work or outside language work. Many of them, because they have kids at haahuupayak, they bring the language home with them and teach their children and share language with their children and families. Our program is a 2-year commitment. However, the graduates of that 2-year are invited to apply back and return with us and to be involved in more advancing their language, but also supporting the main program as in a more leadership role. Last year, we did add Monday, and so that is for our graduates and more advanced learning. And our program runs from October to June. So we like to start a little bit later than the regular school season so people can get their kids settled into school. And then we end just before the end of the school year as well, so that people can attend all of the sports days and celebrations with their children. The other thing we have is we have different levels of language learners learning at the same time. So we have our first year and second years, along with the graduates that have returned, all learning at the same time. And this has been really important and helpful in advancing our beginner students faster because they're being exposed to lots of different language levels. And we can see them jumping in and trying things out. And every year, it's been really exciting to see our very beginner learners trying out more advanced stuff, like more advanced introductions, etc. So every year is different, but this year it really feels like a dream being realized because we have graduates returning and leading and teaching the other years. However, everybody in our program will teach. It's one of the main parts of our program is to create teachers of our language. So even our first years who started in October and really started language lessons like mid-October, they've been teaching each other already with lots of support. So for our language adult intensive, we decided to use Where Are Your Keys as the approach or method after seeing the success of nations like Squamish. And prior to this program, I had the opportunity to do some of their training in Victoria back in 2016. And I was really inspired by everything that they offered. And it's really allowed us to get to work right away, which was really important because of the state of our language. We really wanted to start our adult intensive program as soon as we could. I mean, there was a lot of work leading up to it, and we didn't necessarily feel entirely ready when we started, but we knew we just had to do it and it needed to happen now. So we recognize there's lots of ways to teach and learn language, and there's no right way, there's no magic bullet. All of the ways are good ways. This is just what we landed on, and it has really worked for us. And I'm going to show you how we implement the Where Are Your Keys system, or our approach to it. And there's lots of different elements to it and how you can apply this system to you or your community. It's not a cookie cutter approach. It's not a curriculum that we were handed, and you really need to put into the work to making it right for your community. It's kind of like they provide the building plans and the tools and support, but you still need to harvest them and find the right materials, and you need to bring the paddles and bring the people and do the pulling and work together to get through the water towards your destination. So we develop curriculum from scratch and have been writing and testing lessons since we started in 2020. And we've been building this canoe at sea as we've gone over the years. And when we started, we had, I think, half of the first milestone written, and then we were writing it as we were teaching it that year. And same with the milestone 2. Now we have both written and we've done edits. There's probably little edits to be done, but we are developing a 3rd milestone now. And each of these milestones have about 30 something lessons, but it can be anything really. It just depends on your community. So Where Your Keys provides the container to hold the language program and approaches to stay in the language and to create an immersive experience. But I'm going to show you how we apply the system and how we do it in our community, and how it's been developing over the last 4 years. I just want to acknowledge Squamish and Bokwamkala, who allowed us to witness their programs and allowed us to ask lots of questions. And it's really helped us in the development of our programs. I think seeing things like this, being able to see what other people are doing, is really beneficial and super helpful. So this slide is just showing you a couple of the elements of Where Your Keys that we find really helpful. It's not everything. So it uses, I think everybody might be aware, or if you're aware of Where Your Keys, I think everybody associates it with hand signs or sign language. So yes. So part of it is using techniques for teaching and learning, and using these hand signs or techniques as learners and teachers to stay in the language, to stay in immersion, to have autonomy over your teaching and learning. So it helps you not use English, and it also helps you ask for what you need. And also helps us as like teachers to be aware of what people need. So there's like signs like this, like again, like, so you can ask for something again, you can ask somebody if they want it again. So again is one of them. Louder, maybe you didn't hear a student, or you just want them to speak up, or somebody needs us to speak up, or I'm all done. I've done repetition. I'm all done here. Some of the other things that are listed here is angeling. So this is a really, I think my hands are getting lost in the background, but this is a really important one, in that it's the idea that we're all there to help each other out, and we're all there to like receive help. Like, we're not alone. So you're going to be an angel, and you're going to see this in the videos that I'm showing. You'll see people behind other students, and they'll be doing hand signs, and what they're doing is prompting and supporting each other in the lesson or in the conversation that they're having. And then we have copycat, so do what I do and say what I say. And you're going to see an example of that. And failing fast, because you just need to try. We just all need to try. We're all not going to be perfect. We're not all going to get it right away. And just being able to jump in is such an important part of learning and learning language. And sometimes is really hard as an adult, because we don't want to be wrong. We don't want to feel silly. But you're just jumping in. So just failing fast and encouraging each other. And if you see other people failing fast, then you're going to do it too. And so these are just a couple of techniques. So it helps you stay in the language, and it helps with teaching and learning. The next is the signs. So these is the sign language. So the sign language also acts as, so we have signs for like techniques, but we also have signs that work as a subtitle to our language. And this really helps, especially you'll see people angeling, they'll be doing the signs as a subtitle to the language. So it helps us to help prompt students if they've forgotten without using anything. Like, we could just use the signs, we can mouth it. And if they really need it, we can vocalize it for them. Also, it helps as students to do this, to be an angel and to do the subtitles of the language. It helps them with repetition, because I think we're all aware that it really takes like lots and lots of repetition to learn language. So as an angel, you're going to be doing the conversation before it even gets to you. So it's a part of the way that you can help others, and you can also help yourself. And I think everybody, or many of you, are aware of TPR, the total physical response. And this is a way, this is one of the ways that this works, right? So we're using our bodies to learn and speak the language. And other things that we find helpful, that the offerings of Where Your Keys is having a set daily routine, set activities every day, and this changes throughout the year. But when students know what to expect, it can help cut the anxiety of learning, especially in a space where there's another language. Also, we have a jobs board here. This is in the pictures there. We have a job, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about all of these in a little bit. And so the jobs board, everybody has a job. It rotates each week, and it helps leadership rotate, but also everybody has a job tend to the wellness of the program, but also to the language house. Everything is accessible and visible. Everything is on the walls, like you can see here, so that students can see all of the elements of the program. Nothing is secret, nothing is hidden. It's posted all over the walls, and you're going to see some of that in the videos in this presentation. And I think it's a great part of the program, and it really supports students to be able to just like pick up and teach because they're able to grab the lessons, but also just see what's happening, and makes everything available. Because everything is visible and we have a daily routine and leadership rotates, even if myself and the other lead facilitator, Lindsay or aaʔaʔath isn't there, students can hold a class without us, and they have, and it's really wonderful. They can run through the schedule, they can grab a lesson, and they can teach each other. All right, so this is an example of our daily routine and some of those elements. So we always start with, oh yeah, I have it translated too. So these are the elements. I'm just gonna stick it in. Oh, sorry, I'm having an alert. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so this is our daily schedule. So we always start with a learning prayer that's led by somebody different each day. You can see beside there it says sticks. We have this cup. It has everybody's name in it on sticks. We call it Sticks of Destiny. This is also Wear Your Keys thing. And we pull somebody's name out, and then they get to lead the prayer each day. So it could be anybody. It could be a year one, and we're there to support them and pull them through it. We do a check-in, which is an important piece to community building. And this is in English, and it really helps everybody land together in the space as humans, as a community each morning. Somebody also will read out what we're doing that day. We do activity around TQ of the day. So that's a technique of the day. So it's one of those things that I was talking about again or through times. We have a grid on the wall, and there's probably over 100 of techniques. So this space in our day, this is a place where we can like share those techniques and learn more of those techniques and what they are, especially for our beginner learners. They can start learning more of those techniques to help them in their learning. We have a question of the day. So whoever leads that question, and that changes every week, they get to choose what that question is. So that's in our language. And then we encourage people to do follow-up questions. So that's a space where there's spontaneous language can be spoken. Also, the question of the day can be, and often it is one of the part of one of the lessons that they may have done. So there's like reinforcement of that language there, but it's not in a lesson format. We have lists and prove-its. The lists are pieces of language that go together, and these are this is how we start our lessons, but this is a really great activity we do. So the list can be a grouping of language. So they could be nouns, they could be verbs, and a lot of them are pieces or glue pieces or glue words of the languages that help us to be able to build sentences and conversations. The activity in this activity, and you're going to see an example of this coming up. So this activity, a student will run a list, and then they will pick one part of that list, like one word or one part, to prove that they know it. Sometimes they prove they don't know it, and that's also really, really good learning. This will really helps us see where our students are at and what they're trying to figure out. And it also helps students be able to like hunt something to figure out what they don't know and what they do know, and if they're really understanding those pieces of language correctly. So right now we're doing that every day. Also, people can offer in whatever language level they're at. So whatever list that they're comfortable with or whatever milestone they're doing, they'll do a list from that. And then we do lessons. So again, for each milestone, we have about 32 lessons. We have 2 milestones right now. So year one's milestone is a short introduction, the outcome is, and also greetings. And then milestone 2 is a counting song. And the focus of that is on locatives and different ways of using numbers. So it's a more complicated language. And then every day we have this reflective practice, roots and shoots. where we reflect on what we can celebrate each day, where we can grow, what opportunities there are, and then some bugs, like what didn't work well today, or what can we do better tomorrow or the next day. And we do that every single day at the end of the day. And the thing that's missing from here is we do a checkout every day to be able to close off our circle and our learning together for the day. All right. Oh, some of the other things we do that aren't on here that we move into later on in the year, we do language sprints. So just really quickly, we'll break people up into groups, pairs, sometimes threes, depending on if there's a beginner in there. And then there's a set amount of time that you're really just showing off the language you have in conversation. So it's a lot of spontaneous language. We talk about how to stay in the language before going into those language sprints. And then they can be up to like 10 minutes, but then we rotate partners. So by the end of that activity, there's 30 minutes of immersion in full conversation. And we do have an activity that supports year ones to be able to do that. Language hunts. This as a group will plan and decide like some language that we want to know that we don't know. And we have to create setups with like objects or pictures to be able to pull that language out of a more advanced speaker. And those get recorded and written out, and eventually we can turn those into lessons. And we also have a market walk. So close to our language house, we have the Sishop Market, our community gas station. And so we'll go up there with the idea of bringing language into the community and getting it out of the language house and out of a classroom setting. Like we want people to use language in community and not just in the language house. So we go up to the market and we have lessons up there. And that's really fun. And we have our students leading those lessons as well. And we're developing a Go Fish game. And so we played that a couple times, and yeah, it's really fun, and it's all in the language. All right. So some examples of how we're doing some of these things that come from the Werrikeys system process. We have what we call kwistupshik, and that's TQ poof. So what you're going to see here is UC Quatsapi. So this is one of our 4th year students, and he's also on our core language team. And he's going to lead, well, he's in this activity, what he's done is he pulled out his magic wand and he poofs everybody into himself. And this is where everybody will copycat him. They will do what he does and say what he says. And this activity helps to reinforce introductions, which is what everybody, when they first come into learning language, wants to know, how to introduce themselves. And this is an outcome from milestone 1. And because we have lots of different levels of learners at the same time, people's introductions are really different. Some are really a lot more advanced, some are a little bit more basic, but our year ones are getting exposed to all of that, and that's really helpful. So I'm going to play this for you, and you will see him using the hand signs as the subtitle of the language.
Mama Zabi. Mama Kate MT Josh.
Mama Kate MT Josh.
Išaaʔatḥ. Italianat. Išaaʔatḥ suma us. Ishha mamuk ya aslav taaʔisumqa mahti.
Mamuk aaʔath mahti.
Isaaʔatḥ Isabel.
Isabel.
Nuučaan Blair.
Blair.
Aaʔaʔath Nananixu Albert Bernice.
Aaʔaʔath Nananixu Albert Bernice.
Aaʔaʔathlutsma Tanya.
Aaʔaʔathlutsma Tanya.
Aaʔaʔath Mak Itchen Todd Rome Koda.
Aaʔaʔath Mak Itchen Todd Rome Koda.
hokwa Quixu Nicole Nicole Prince Lakpa.
Hokwa Quixu Nicole Prince
All right, so that was our TQ poof, or what we call kwistupchik, and everybody has an opportunity to do that. So it's really good practice throughout the year to practice your introduction amongst our small community in the language house. And often when you are a language learner, you will be asked to introduce yourself in the community. So it's great to practice with each other first before getting out into other spaces and using the language. And then here is our next activity, question of the day, which is aaʔaʔath. So question of the day is an activity we do every morning too. And again, whoever's leading it gets to pick the question, and then we encourage people to have a follow-up question. So that's just made from you. So it's spontaneous language. Here, what you're going to see is aaʔaʔath, who is one of our first year language students. So she just started at the beginning of October, and aaʔaʔath, who is fourth year with the question. So you're going to see students that are angeling her and helping her along, and you'll see them using hand signs and as a subtitle to the language to encourage her, because this is really new to her in this question. All right. So. Right, so that is our aaʔaʔath, another thing we do every day. And then lists and prove its that I've talked about. Here you're going to see one of our students, aalima, who's a third year student. So she just graduated the 2 years last year, and she'll be running a list, and then you'll see her prove one part of that list. And then at the end, you're going to hear a big clap, because that's what we do when somebody's proved it. Yay, celebration. And then if they haven't proved it, we're like, ah, and then they know that they haven't. And that, again, is still really good learning. And so this is a really great opportunity for people to test language out. Yeah, so everybody has an opportunity to run a list during list time, put in and to prove part of that. And so again, that's like a place like we don't, I guess one thing I want to mention is we don't translate anything, and we really don't have people have little books, but they're not writing or reading them as we're doing any of these activities. They have some time at home if they want to like write down what they remember, but this is all we're trying to get people to pull language out of their brains and their hearts in these spaces, so that they're able to use language spontaneously. All right. So I want to highlight here is other pieces that work really well, and I talked about it a little bit more, but just to like lift it up a little bit now is I want to highlight here our daily rotation and weekly jobs board. So the daily rotation is at the top, and those are the days that we meet for the main program. And you will see there's like different color stickies, and everybody has their own colored sticky and it has their name on it. And so this helps us organize where people are going to be and who the teachers are. And so we can see each week like who taught who, and then the next week we can rotate that so that other people are teaching different levels. And so not one teacher is just in with year ones or year twos the whole time. And then year twos will go in to teach, or like one of the year twos will go in to teach the year ones. And right now we have myself, aaʔaþ, as like the main facilitators. We have Quatsapi and älima and haahuupayak, who are returning graduates. So they're sort of mainly teaching at the moment, but we're going to be rotating students through. However, our year ones have already taken some opportunities to teach each other lessons that they've learned with a lot of support, and same with our year twos. This is our jobs board underneath, and I think this is really important. This has been super helpful. So everybody has a job. They rotate every week. So just a little bit about that. We have our guide. So the job, and this comes from Warrior Keys too. I think we've changed some of the names and we've added a couple or one. But we have a guide, so that's the person that is leading all of the activities for that day. So they're making sure we're starting on time, coming back from breaks on time, and just, telling people where to go. And often those activities, like the question of the day, like they'll be leading that kind of thing. We have a scribe. So this person is like the person that's writing up the reflections at the end of the day or at the end of lessons, or if we have lesson writing to do, that person is in charge of that, even though other people might be doing that as well. We have TQ of the day, whoever's running that activity of teaching a technique and then running TQs. We have a newbie catcher. So that person is responsible if somebody's like comes into the language house, like an elder, just making sure that they're welcomed and taken care of. If somebody comes in and like needs something, they'll facilitate that process, or they may teach one of the students that had missed a lesson, maybe the day before or the week before. They'll be responsible for teaching that lesson to that student. Then we have the scheduler. So the scheduler is responsible for reading out the schedule every day for everybody, and also reminding people about their phones so that people aren't being distracted by their phones during our activities. We have guardian, and the guardian is the person that is tending to the wellness and the energetics of the space. So they're calling breaks, and they're leading any activities. So we'll have stretch breaks, or like maybe we need a walk, or we just, need to like do something different. They're the ones that are like keeping an eye on people, seeing if like they're filling up too full with language and we need to, shake that off and call a break or something like that. We have a photographer that takes pictures, maybe videos, that helps with these kind of presentations, but also, and reporting. And also they take pictures of our final whiteboard that has our schedule and then like our reflections, and that goes into a binder. And so every year we have a binder full of every day of everything we've done. So it's really good documentation, and we're able to bring that to community to show them what we're doing. We have invisible magician and timekeeper, and this person is responsible for doing the things that need to get done, but also keeping track of immersion time, and we track that every day. And at the end of the day, we write down how much immersion we've been in for the day. We have a cheerleader who is like rooting people on, leading applauses for people and keeping the energy up. And then we have a meal captain who's responsible for like cleaning up after the lunch we share together, and also planning for the meal for the next week. So everybody has a job, and everybody is responsible for the wellness of the program and for the language space. And then just like a little bit of like what works well for us, and what we've really heard from our students is that our program together, we all are creating a really safe and supportive learning environment. And these are some of the things I think that we're doing that contributes to that. So we interview our students. Every year we have a new cohort. It's small. Those cohorts are quite small. So we have about 3 people, new students each year. And what we're looking for in that interview is to build a really strong team. So we want people that are going to work well together, that are going to support each other, that are going to lift each other up, and who will jump in and embrace this teaching and learning method, and who wants to pass on language to others, so that we are doing it for the future generations. We're not necessarily doing this for ourselves. We also develop principles of being well together at the beginning of our program. So how can we be well? How can we take care of each other? What do we need? What do we need to be well together in this space? And this is an agreement of sorts that's collectively developed and up in the space as a reminder. And we also talk about what is our why, and that's up in our space as well. What brings us to this learning? What will keep us motivated when it gets hard and keeps us showing up every day and pushing ourselves through the discomfort, which I think we all know that language learning can be really uncomfortable. But yeah, so we have what is our why. And then some other things I think that we've talked about is like really landing in the space together as humans, having prayer, connecting to, Creator and our ancestors and calling them into the space to help us each day, checking in with each other and checking out and closing the circle for the day, reflecting on how the day is going every day and the program throughout the year. We do a lot of reflection and learning from that and, addressing some of those needs. Shared leadership that I was just talking about. Leadership rotates. Everybody's a leader. We just let people know if they see something that needs to happen, please call it in. And then eating together. It's a really important part of our community. I'm sure lots of most other Indigenous communities, if not all, is to eat together. And so we share a meal every Tuesday to lift that up. And then we bring outside supports. So I think that, language learning comes from a history of a lot of, not language learning, but our languages were taken away. And I think whether we carry that trauma with us or it was our grandparents or our parents, we still do. We still do carry that. So we need to really acknowledge that and take care of each other. We don't want people leaving our space and not feeling well and not knowing why. So we bring in outside supports, and we actually have her coming in, Linda Pellick, tomorrow. And what she does with us is she helps us with anxiety or support. So we do tapping. She'll offer smudge, or we'll go into the forest and connect with nature. She does sound bowls. So bringing in outside support so we can take care of ourselves and our spirits and each other in these ways, because I think it's really important when we're learning together and building community. And then community building, all of these things. We spend 3 weeks when we first get together really focusing on building community and building this language family so that we can move together really supported and well together. So the first week we do all of these kind of discussions and conversations, and then we do training together with Where Are Your Keys? So everybody is on the same page and kind of understands what we're doing and what to expect. And then just a couple more pictures of our program. So we like to get out in the community. Like I said, we do the market walk. This is our students down at our dam. So down at the water, which is a really important community space for us. We like to get out there, and they're doing language sprints outside. There's other places outside that we've gone to as well throughout the community to do these sprints. And then we have the fly squatter game that is from the Paul Creek method, which is really fun. It's just something, if you're the guardian and you see energy is low, this is something that we can pull out and just lift up, people lift up the energy in the space. Also, kids really love it. And we do this too in our evening classes that we run. And then just a little bit more about how we make things visible in the space. So you will see the calendar there. And so that's it's not all of the months. This was from last year. But what's up here is what people can expect coming up, when Linda's coming in, when we're going to do assessments, when we're going to do those reflections of the program. Also, students can write down if they're going to be away on there, or when we're going to be closed for the winter. So everything's super visible. And then you can see here, this is milestone 2. And so we have the lessons along the top in the pink. Along the side is the name of the students that are doing the lessons or teaching the lessons. And then along the bottom, we have all of the lessons laid out. So everything is visible on this grid. You're able to write down when you've learned it. So when you've played it the first time, when you know it, when you've taught it, and when you've taught somebody else to taught it. So we really want people to run through all of that. So that they've taught all of the lessons or some of the lessons. So it's a really important part of our program is to have people with the skills to be able to teach language, either, in a program or at home. And then this is our milestone 1 when it was first developed. This is what it looks like. A bunch of Post-it notes on a whiteboard. Also a picture of aaʔaʔath is our speaker who has really helped with the development of these lessons, and just wanting to acknowledge him and his expertise and his passion and his willingness to sit with us every week. We sit with him. Actually, he records with us 3 times a week in the afternoons. And then some testimonies from a couple of our students, just to like wrap up this presentation. So they're just reflecting on the program, but also what other students can expect. So this is nuuc, and he is now one of our year 2 students. The safe learning environment allowed me to learn the language easier than other program classes. I've tried I remember the language better when translations were kept to a minimum. Using sign language to learn the language visually worked best for my brain. Don't be hard on yourself. If you don't understand words or phrases right away, allow yourself to learn at your own pace. Practice language outside of the class with your family and friends. Be ready to come to class to learn, but also have fun. Learn the language for the sake of passing it on to the next generations. Knowing the language builds confidence. And then another one of our students, Nanaswias, who is also in year 3 now. Come in with an open mind and forget what you know about other methods of learning. This methodology is different, but it really works. Working on language can feel like a challenge at times, but with the group we are learning with, there's a sense of humor and lightness that makes it feel easeful to learn. Personal accountability is huge with this language journey. You're going to get out of it what you're willing to get put in. Your own openness and willingness to learn contributes to the development of the program for both previous learners and future language learners. The commitment to continue language outside of the class, in our homes, within the community, is what will really keep growing this program and revitalizing language. So I just want to thank them for their words, also just helping other students understand what they're getting into when they apply for the program and coming into the program. And then a big thanks again to our language holders here. We have Helen Dick, who is our last išaaʔatḥ language speaker in our community, and Benson Newcomis, who is our main language support for our program. And we do recording with him again every week. And then I have, because I just want to really thank our language speakers. We have language speakers from many other dialects in our space at the Language House together, who've, just really want to acknowledge them, who have held on to our language so that we're able to carry it on. And we really take this responsibility very seriously. And we just have such deep gratitude for their generosity. So thank you so much for listening to me today. And here's some information. We have a Facebook page, išaaʔatḥ Language. We have a YouTube channel and also our First Voices. And then on our nation's website under language, there's a bunch of information about our program and the different areas of our program, including the Adult Intensive program. So that is my presentation. Thank you so much again. I look forward to questions.
So thank you again so much, everyone, for joining us today. And thank you so much to taaʔisumqa. It's been really lovely learning from you today.